Good afternoon. I'm Monica Maffia. I like to talk about Shakespeare contemporary comedic dramatist Ben Jonson and his depiction of the intervention of nature by alchemists. I'll share with you the perplexities and solutions to put on this short play that deal with greed and pseudosciences and environmental justice. I'm not referring to Ben Jonson's best known full length play, The Alchemist, but rather to one of his masques, a short genre exclusive for the court. Although Shakespeare added a scene of a masque in The Tempest, he was not keen on such an obscene expenditure on a monarchy's self-celebratory luxury spectacle of music, costume, dance, and elaborated set of designs, while the text had a smaller relevance. Masques were living proof of social and political tensions and developed its magnificence under King James I. It was for the exclusive consumption of the court, the ruling nobility and upper classes who attended the performances at Banqueting Hall in Whitehall Palace. They were presented for 12th night celebrations at court, not in a public theatre. No common people were admitted. Meanwhile, outside the court, there was social unrest, lack of work, and high prices, and people were suffering from dearth, bad harvest, and famine. The richness of costumes and set designs by Inigo Jones reflected the splendor of the court under which Ben Jonson's masks glimmered. Even managed to introduce some critical issues through the creation of anti-masks with politically incorrect characters, but only to offer a contrast to enhance even more the brilliance of the main characters. In time, where women weren't allowed on stage in regular theatres, within masks, noble women, even Queen Anne herself, took part in the brightest roles. As Reggie says, I wanted to explore this genre that paved the way for the opera in Britain. 20 years ago, the opportunity knocked. An old abandoned oil factory was bought by a prestigious Argentinian lawyer and businessman who hired Clorindo Testa, one of the most renowned figures of modern architecture in Latin America, with pioneering, groundbreaking work as an architect and painter to transform this eyesore ruined in central Buenos Aires into the future cultural city. The subject of recycling and refurbishing was not just circumscribed to the materiality of the building itself. I was one of the artists invited to take a look at the venue to find inspiration and offer an artistic performative perspective of the ruins for the summer festival just before having the site dismantled and partly demolished to be able to build the new place. A pool of architects were checking everything to minimize risks such as falling debris or whatever. When I saw a dark, rather claustrophobic room with three big silos for grain storage, amid decay and destruction, I immediately thought of Mercury Vindicated. It was a perfect setting for the anti-masque, where action takes place at Vulcan's laboratory with Cyclops as an assistant and surrounded by alchemists. So, very enthusiastically, I translated the text and began rehearsals with my Faculty of Philosophy theatre group. Unfortunately, shortly before the opening, the architect refused permission due to the risk of collapse. Instead, we were relocated in a huge rectangular site with perfectly level surface when we had worked on the idea of walking over mounds of rubble at an asphyxiating closeness with the audience. I had to adapt the staging to an entirely different orography. The new space was ideal for motor perpetual corporeality with capricious mood swings which I wanted from Mercury in order to portray the characteristics of Quicksilver. It was ideal for choreographic work with actors playing alchemists in the anti-masque and those that illuminate with their presence the principal masque. I pointed out that actors should focus on the apocalyptic concerns of the 17th century which are quite similar to this age: the harshness of the Little Ice Age, food shortages, plague, severe drought. Deforestation to extract trees for fuel, paper, timber led to the use and misuse of coal depicted in this play, with major environmental consequences such as heat destroying harvest and producing spontaneous fire that would burn houses to ashes. Very much what we can see and suffer nowadays. And of course, the generalized, terrifying notion of 17th centuries that the sun was growing cold and nature not responding as it should could mean the end of the world. Spiritual alchemy was a serious science then, with researchers and practitioners trying to find solutions in the healing properties of that promised philosopher's stone. At that stage, a laboratory was needed for change methods to purify refined metals through techniques of heating, dissolution, and precipitation. Of course, the closer they got to the opus magnum, the more messianic some of them felt, and that is a close reference to scientific milestone of those days that we included in this staging. Ben Jonson portrays Mercury as god and volatile metal. He's been chased by ravenous alchemists commanded by Vulcan and moved by greed. Mercury denounces in front of the audiences that they trick the credulous into exchanging future shares of the philosopher's stones for present food, shelter, etc. But worst of all, he described how they torture him because they need Mercury to create the philosopher's stones and acquire the power to heal, and that dream of gold easily made out of coal. We learn that they are set up against nature to the point of conducting experiments to serve their own ills, creating human beings with ingredients that make them roguish. Mercury reveals the receipt for each type of human beings the alchemists are creating. Most of them are spices, tobacco, and aurum palpabile, tangible gold. We could see in that list of ingredients the results of the pillaging from the so-called New World. The portrayal of cloning and abuse of science is displayed in a procession of people of the first class, according to Vulcan, but described in stage directions as imperfect creatures with retorts on their heads. In my staging, I chose to parade scientific haughtiness, technological conceit, professional pride, arrogant doctors injecting anabolic steroids on skinny people, breast implants, and Botox on lips of fashion models, jars with organs on formaldehyde, a prototype of DNA double helix model, and last but not least, the utmost scientific success that back in 2004 was still considered recent, Dolly, the sheep. The first cloned mammal that opened the path to what today is celebrated as the first living biocomputer that uses human brain cells to process information and from here to singularity with artificial intelligence surpassing human intelligence, leading to unpredictable and profound changes for humanity. This is the point when Mercury, horrified with such disruption of natural processes, gives Vulcan the bot, handed by Cyclops the complete laboratory built on heavy-duty hand pallet truck that I found in the oil factory, and with Vulcan on top, begins to move and disappears in the shadows. For this production, we recycled waste material, discarded objects, and tools, made props, and reused old equipment. Then Mercury calls nature, and in my staging, she appears gliding on roller skates. Her sons around her are quarreling, so in turn she invokes Prometheus to help her. I took advantage of these spacious sites to create a choreography where the sons of nature copied the movements of protons and neutrons in the atom's nucleus, adding the atomic orbital of electrons. So the masque ends with harmony, finally reestablished, portraying the triumph of light over darkness. Thank you.